Today we're going to be solving equations that have absolute values in them, so solving for x. So in order to do that, it really helps to understand what an absolute value is. So you all know that if you see the absolute value of -4, that the answer is 4. But why? Well, the reason why is that the absolute value is the distance from whatever's inside, -4, to 0 on the number line. So here's my -4, here's my 0, and if I were to count how far it is, 1, 2, 3, 4, I get 4, and 4 is always positive. So if x represents the coordinate of a point on a number line, the absolute value of x, so this time we don't know what it is, but the absolute value of x equals 3 means that the point is 3 units from 0 on a number line. So here's my 0. It could be, counting over from here, 1, 2, 3, this direction. So it could be 3. Or it could also be 1, 2, 3, this direction. So it could be -3. So there are two answers, and either the 3 or the -3. So absolute value of x is 3. The distance from this number, so if I put a -3 in here, it's going to be 3, and a +3 would also give me a 3. So example 1 says graph each absolute value, then write the solution. So I have the absolute value of x is equal to 4. So that's going to be all numbers whose distance from 0 is 4 on the number line. So that's going to be for this direction, so here, and for this direction, so here. So those are my answers, and I would write -4, 4 for my solution. There's two numbers that are 4 away from 0 on the number line. B, the absolute value of x is 0, so all numbers whose distance from 0 is 0. And there's only one that's going to fill the bill there, and that's just the 0. 0 is the only one. So my answer on this one's going to be 0. And C, the absolute value of x is -3. So all numbers whose distance from 0 is -3. Well, distance can't be negative, so this one is no solution. That's not possible for an absolute value to be negative. All right, so to solve an equation or an inequality involving absolute value, you're going to first isolate the absolute value, and we'll talk about that later, then undo the absolute value, setting what is inside the absolute value equal to either both the positive and the negative value. If the value is negative before you undo the absolute value, there is no solution. So let's just do some examples. Now you'll have to forgive me, and what I decided to do is kind of simplify just a little bit. So I scratched out this, and instead I put the absolute value of x minus 5 is equal to 10, and we're going to solve that. Now what I want to do is I want to kind of show this on a number line just to give you an idea of what this means. So this is saying that the absolute value, so the distance from x minus 5 to 0 on the number line is 10 units away. So it's either 10 units to the right or 10 units to the left. So the x minus 5 is either here or it's equal to +10. So what we're going to write, you don't have to show the number line every time, but what you'll write is that whatever's inside, so that's what is meant by undoing it. I'm going to take the inside x minus 5 and say either it has to be -10 or x minus 5 has to be +10. So I'm going to undo it to get my two answers. -10, +10. Everything else stays exactly the same. And then solve it. So +5 on both sides, x is equal to -5, +5 on both sides here, and I get that x is equal to 15. So my solution then for this is -5 and 15. B, I went ahead and put one here that I'm going to isolate. I have the absolute value of x minus 5 is 10. So notice the difference between these two. Here, my x minus 5 is all inside the absolute value. Here, I have the absolute value, and then I have the minus 5 after it. So I'm going to isolate it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add 5 to both sides, and I'm going to be left with the absolute value of x is equal to 15. So you must isolate first if there's a number over there. So then once I get an absolute value on one side and a number on the other, then I'm going to then undo it, and I'm going to say that either x has got to be a negative 15 because it's 15 units away from 0, or x is going to be equal to a positive 15. And so my solution then would be negative 15, comma 15. All right, so let's try. Ooh, I guess I need to stop. I'll stop and pick it up on the next video.